All right, I'm going to start talking because we kind of got a little bit of time. But first, I just want to honor Taika with a quick bowing. All right. Thank you. All right. 10 years ago today, he passed away, and I'll get pretty emotional during this whole day, so I may have to have some of my mates talk for me. It'll probably be emotional as well, so I'm cracking a little bit here. But it's been 10 years since he passed. The man was originally from the Ryukyu Islands. He was born on a small little island just offshore of Okinawa on the east, raised in Okinawa. Then Takedown, another island. And then World War II happened, got pulled in to the war. And then after that, met two really great guys that really were his catalyst into the martial arts. And is very well known for Kyusho, Shuri-Te, among other things. Today what we're going to do is, for about 10-15 minutes, we're going to do one technique, and then another technique, and then another technique, and then we'll be out of time. So we only really had time for 3 of us to get in stuff. But I'm going to start showing a film, and then I'm going to put it on endless loop, and Alex is going to teach the technique. We'll do that for about 10-15 minutes, and then I will do one, and then I'll do one. Make sense? So just be kind of careful of the wires here. I put the tube bow down there, but feel free to move in everywhere. Try not to blind yourself like I've already done 3 or 4 times. All right. So, very first technique. Alex is going to talk a little bit about it, and that's just going to be running in this loop in the background.
Taika was one of his gifts to martial arts was the ability to extract human nature. He understood, and not only he was taught, but he also developed the understanding of extracting human nature through certain actions. And a good way to describe it is if I go to kick you in the groin, you're going to instinctively lean forward. If I go to put my fingers in your eye, you're going to instinctively lean back. And those are just very basic but very clear examples of extracting human nature. The technique that you're seeing right now is one of those motions where when someone goes to punch, reach out, grab you, if you throw a kick, it creates a freeze response. So it makes it very easy to guide this linear attack that you're seeing. It's a straight arm punch, which can be a straight hand push, those kind of things. And it creates a freeze response where you can now buy yourself a little bit more time to guide it into this window. We talked a lot about this window here for trapping, but also for attacking and getting inside and having access to the neck and to the jaw and things like that. So this particular technique is a great example of how Taika, as he's parrying this, creates that response with a kick. Now the footwork that we learned in Bujutsu-Kai is very, very crucial in understanding how these joint locks, how these power strikes, how creating angles work. So you'll notice that as he kicks, he comes out with a hook step back to his right. So we call that a shallow hook step when it comes here. So what we're going to do is we're going to isolate each piece of his motions first in a drill fashion, and then we're going to actually partner up and apply it. So everybody get some space. I'm going to put, you can come out here as well. It's okay if we start kind of getting into it like this. So I just want everybody to be able to learn the move, okay? So first thing we're going to do is you're going to throw a front kick and then hook step back to your right like this. When you do that, you keep your lead foot in place, just like that. All right, so again from here, front kick, boom, and then hook step. Now, if you notice, this kick isn't really chambered, it just lifts, boom. So it's not like a knee first and then a kick, it's just a quick lift. And you'll notice the striking surface that he's using is the ball of his foot, so it's very specific to being able to access the ribs or let's say damage the rib area. So if you've ever thrown roundhouses with the ball of your foot, much more devastating than with the top of your foot, because it's like using a ball-peen hammer per se. So if I round kick you in the ribs with the top of my foot, it's for your protection. If I round kick you in the ribs with the ball of the foot, it's for my protection, because you break ribs very simply. So as you're kicking, if you're not wearing sneakers, you can accent that by curling the toe back. So from here, ready, kick, boom, and hook step back, just like that. And again, ready, kick, boom, and hook step back. Good. One more time, kick, and hook step back. Good. Now, what we're going to do is transfer for the takedown. So as he kicks hook steps, right there, it's a little bit more of a squat, but you can also drop to one knee, as you'll see him exchange right there for the takedown. So kick here, you can, as it comes, you can drop this knee and pivot down, or twist and stay. Or he does a switch step where he kicks, as it comes down, he drops his left foot back, and he drops for the takedown there. All right, so we'll do that a couple of times. So extend and retract. Then he comes up and catches inside the bicep. So again, extend, retract, comes in. In the video, he's a little bit more specific right to the wrist, but in action, you'll see that it's more of a tracing from the shoulder back to the wrist so that you have a long tracking record right to the elbow. So as it comes in, one, now the hand is on the bicep, which is where the arm is tracked, slides off and makes its way to the elbow. There, and then it makes its way to the elbow. See, so it goes arm bar with this elbow form and such. So we'll just go 1 and 2. You can use your hand or your form, elbow. All right, ready? 1 and 2. All right, so now let's put it all together. So as a punch or a straight line attack, it's just called straight line attack, where the punch and push comes out. You're already tracking, then the hand comes up, and the kick at the same time, so you feed it, and then you turn and drop into that arm bar. So the wrist is caught and trapped inside of your elbow. Center line, organ line. This organ line is represented by the middle line in the kanji for te. So the kanji for te consists of 4 lines. Center line, then you have the face, jaw, neck line. You have the organ line, which is plexus, stomach, spleen, liver, gallbladder, and then the groin line. So every time that we move, we're constantly covering these 4 lines, but at the same time when we attack, we want to exploit these 4 lines because this is all that is a target-rich environment, right? So when we hit this side, we kick this side, we're trying to get into the stomach spleen area, and in traditional Chinese medicine, which a lot of you already studied, you have the liver and gallbladder crossing here. So it's a very target-rich environment. So as that comes out, you're guiding into the trap here, but at the same time, there's a kick. So again, here, boom. Now, as that hook step happens, that generates this drag. So this generates that drag. So as that's happening, right, boom, now you can change it to arm bar. This time I'll keep it, I'll go slow. Here, boom, here, and then arm press this way. Or you do the switch step, which he does in live sleep, here, and then my left leg drops back, makes it quicker. So we'll go a little bit slower now for academic evaluation. So again, that's the guy. Right? That's the guy. Atemi. It doesn't have to be to the torso. Where else can it be? Groin, inner leg, really anywhere. Because when I do this, it creates this kind of response. Right? So here, boom, hook step, drop. Yeah. What's that? Of course, you can start to add different variations on the finish. All right, let's try it out, guys. Okay. The wrist in the crease, you can actually you don't have to use your other hand. You can guide it when it's in this position. Is that my right? Sensei? Yeah, so you say right. So, and then another thing, Sensei, please remind me your Bob Rock. That's right, Richard Clear. So Clear was saying that he can see, because he's an internal artist, he can see the intent in Oyata Sensei's mindset, going right to the spine, and everything that he was doing was directed to it, and the power of intent always makes everything better. I think similar to board breaking and some of your easy kind of connections. If you're breaking boards, you look at the board, maybe not. If you look through the board, totally different experience. And taking that to an exponential level now, thinking about organ striking and manipulating the fighting skeleton and things like that. All right, so now let's make it a little bit more live. So he throws a jab cross, so I cover, and then this, staying safe, right? So here, then same. All right, so now cover, feed it in, kick and go. So now jab cross. All right, let's go. to the form, once he attaches, he physically rolls the arm. He physically rolls it. So if you watch the footage, it's either attached at the wrist, he rolls it, or some of the clips, it's a little bit further up on the forearm. But as soon as he attaches, his other hand is physically rolling. Now time to get, he went elbow to elbow. But we'll see again in a moment. Roll right there. See, he rolled it on the forearm. So it doesn't matter if it's the wrist or the forearm. Once you attach, and it's in here, even if it's thumb up, once you grab, you can still roll to get that elbow to pop up so that it goes elbow to elbow. All right, let's go. We've got a couple minutes. Right?
Thank you everybody for being here. It really means a lot to everybody. Huh, now I'm going to have trouble. Everybody in the Taika lineage. So this technique is actually very similar to the technique that Alex was doing in a lot of ways. Right? This is a linear attack. In this particular case, we'll do it from a push. It has that same sliding motion that he was just talking about, where your hand is coming along their arm, right, to trap. But I want to start from like here. That's too big. If I pick somebody my size, nobody will be impressed. So on a push, let's talk just a little bit about sort of human nature again. When he goes to push me, push. Okay. Oh, good. Okay. He's expecting to get a little bit of resistance on both hands at the same time. Okay? Right? He's expecting. I still need it. When he hits me, it's going to be boom, and I'm going to fly. So the first part of this technique, you'll see Taika turn. So when he goes to push, he gets 1-2. Now, if it's a really big dude who's coming in with intention, I'm not just going to stand here, right? But if this person comes in with a little push or isn't much bigger than me, right? He's going to be off balance rather than I am. And I'm going to have this off balancing. He's going to be off balance because he's going to go 1-2, and I'm going to be on balance because I bent my knees and I have stability, right? Now when you watch this technique, there's two parts of this technique that are critical. And who was in the Shuri-Te class I did on Thursday? Anybody who was here? A couple of you. All right. So this is a Shuri-Te. All this entire technique is nothing but a Shuri-Te, right? So the first part of the Shuri-Te is the cross. Your cross for a Shuri-Te. All right, so he pushes Shuri-Te. This hand is up here on his palm. Now why does he stay there? Because he's expecting resistance. He's expecting to hit something, right? So I'm giving him my hand, right? And I'm sliding the same way Alex was talking about, back along his arm until I get to his wrist, right? And now I'm simply shifting my weight. Again, the same as Taika was doing here, I'm simply shifting my weight forward and taking him down. The two important pieces of this from a technique perspective, I'm just going to break it down, is this trap. You can do it in a number of ways. The goal of this trap is to isolate this point. You don't want this point to move. And to create tension in the wrist. Right? All of you guys who do jujutsu, all of you guys who do Shuri-Te, you know if there's slack in a joint, the technique doesn't work. So this is to help pull up that slack. The second part is this hand on top. A lot of people do this technique like this. You'll see palm to palm, right? Palm to palm. If I do palm to palm with him, grab, be strong, right? Break my wrist. I'm not going to win this fight. His elbow is down and my elbow's out right now, right? My elbow out is just like cross grab technique that everybody does. When your elbow's up, you're weak. So when he pushes, I don't want to go palm to palm. I'm going to give him knife edge. Knife edge. And you can even bend your fingers. This little angle here. Grab. Grab. Come on. Grab. Right? This is awkward. You can see there's really nothing for him here to grab here. Right? Even if it's straight, same thing. So I'm not giving him something to grab. I'm creating the tension with the other half of my hand, other half of the technique, and now my body is applying all the force of my body. And he's going to go down. Make sense? So, slowly this time. Not running away, just slowly come. I'm going to turn, I'm going to bend my waist, I'm going to get offline. So if he does make contact, it's not going to be significant. I'm going to slide to create that tension. I'm going to give him nothing to grab. I'm going to turn my body, and then drop my weight. And if you wanted to step back, just like we did in the last technique, you can do that, end up in the same position. Make sense?
Hey.
Spread out, Teflon. Thank you. So one thing I didn't mention, I should have mentioned, is go ahead, push. So this hand, I talked about the fingers, the angle, and not to grab, right? What I didn't talk about is that this forearm needs to touch their forearm. If you try to do this in space, his elbow can just leave, right? He can just retract his arm and escape. You can't let him do that, right? If they're nice enough to give you an arm, keep it. It's a gift. It's impolite to give it back. So touch. You see, as soon as my forearm touches him, he no longer can retract, right? Hand is pulling, so he can't go that way. This hand is on top, so he can't go up. This is on his forearm, so he can't go out, right? And I want him to go down. Again, what Alex was talking about, you're leading him to water, right? I can't make him drink, but I can definitely throw him into the drink. Right? All right? The last little thing I'll show you, and I'll let you play it again because I want you to have more time to practice, is I'll push slowly. This grip can be anything, right? This grip can be basic, anything. As long as it's doing what it needs to do from a functional perspective. It needs to freeze this point. It needs to create this tension, right? As long as you're doing those two things, you can do this grip in a lot of different ways. You can even do the grip in a different part of the arm. I can do it up here on his forearm, as long as I'm freezing the point I need to freeze. It doesn't really matter. A little harder to do it here, but it doesn't matter. But focus on keeping this point still, creating this tension, aligning here, and controlling the outside of the arm with the other hand. Then just smash it. Thank you. I forget that some of the things Taika taught us aren't always obvious, and I forget, so my apologies. So someone just asked me, I'm a little bit worried about being able to catch their hand in space, and that is a really good worry to have, because you are never going to catch a hand in space, right? Taika used to ask us, he said, is it easier to hit a car that's moving or a car that's parked? Right? It's always a car that's parked. The alternative, though, is hit the car when you know where it's going. Right? If I know the car is going to drive by me, I can throw a rock and hit the car. I don't have to wait and aim for the car. I know it's coming. I can hit it. On this push technique, can I make sure? Let's come here. Go too slow. As he pushes, where is he pushing me? In the chest, right? No one's going to come here and like push me in my hips, right? I mean, I guess if they're shooting, but they're not trying to push you, right? If someone's trying to push you, they're trying to push in the upper part of your body because that's where they've got leverage to make you move. So I don't need to aim for his hand when he pushes. I just need to put it in front of my chest. His hand will come to me, right? That's why when I did it with you and you threw a nice strong push, I got pushed, but my hand was still in the right spot because I put it where he was going to push. I didn't try to look for his hand in space. So that's an important concept. Don't try to look for this hand in space and catch it. Impossible. No way. Let him push. Put your hand in front of where you know he's going to be aiming. And he'll do it for you. Then it's easy. All right. I think we got 2 more minutes. Go ahead. Have some more.
I kind of wanted to do some different variety of things. The next one's going to be off a grab. And, you know, I hear all the time people say, people don't grab you in a fight. Well, if you put them in an awkward position where they're falling, what does a person do? They grab you. So where this is starting, somebody probably wouldn't just come up and grab you. Taika said most of the time they were grabbing you in fights. It's because you blew their leg out and they reach up and catch, right? Or you plow them in the stomach and they move forward, right? And they grab. So if you or any of your loved ones decide that people don't grab you in a fight, I've got about 100 YouTube videos of people in street fights grabbing each other, bookmarked. So just, you know.
And
just,
caveat, 30-year plus police veteran, so lots of hands-on, lots of hands-on.
All right, so you can see what's going on here. He is doing a 2-hand grip to 1. So the baddie, the super this let me back up for a second. I gotta talk about this, the throw, all right? This was about 1970, okay? Just to give you some perspective, there's a fort fairly near to Kansas City. It's a historic deal. It's an old wooden fort. And they decided didn't have any technique videos of Taika, so they borrowed somebody's Super 8 video camera and they went out here to the fort and the botanical gardens next to it to give you kind of a perspective of when this was. It was around 1970. This is Taika's very first technique video that he ever made. All right. But anyway, so he's doing a little action here. We call it kind of a leverage release J-hook action to get the person's grip loose, and then he's rolling his own arm and attacking him with his own arm into an arm bar. All right, Taika was just absolutely wicked at understanding logistics of levers. Class 1 levers, there's 3 classes of levers. Class 1 is the most efficient. Class 3 is the absolute worst. It's where if you're a big guy, you can make a class 3 lever work. Taika and myself and a few of you in this room are pretty small people, so you want to use class 3 levers. Can I use young Ormaza here? All right. So I'm just going to let's back up this way a little bit so I'm not blinded. All right. So when somebody grabs 2 arms like this, if I just try to attack it with one hand, I'm not going to make this work. So I'm going to have him just hold on as tight as possible, and I'm just going to fish this through incorrectly and just touch his one arm and try to pry it off. And it's never going to happen, right? He's not like super bodybuilder here, but he is, he's got longer levers and some more muscles than I do. If I bridge the gap with the other arm, and it's kind of hard to see in Taika's video because he goes pretty deep in there. If I put my lever here and here, so I'm going over this hand, wait until videographer or Ormaza is in place. It's like I'm putting a crowbar in here. I'm touching here and then prying this up. Make sense? So my crowbar goes in, and I'm putting pressure on the bottom to get my contact point, my pivot point, and then this comes up. And now I just grab his arm, and I can go right in and do an arm bar on him, right, with his own arm. So that's the big key part that people struggle with the most, is making the lever correct. If I just go in here and I just try to pull my hand up, I'm never going to get it. If I touch and push down, and so you see my hips kind of drop and then come up, now I've got to do a little hand change here. I've got to roll over, come up behind or above, depending on your perspective, his elbow. And as I start to pass this, see how my hands change? I just get him. Is this a good, strong push-up position, bench press position? Would you get on your bench press and do this and try to break your new world record? No. So he grabs again. I come in here. I set my elbow first to get some initial pressure. I J-hook up, switch my hand, come up. I'm in an awkward position. My elbow's up high. I'm weak. I get into my bench press position. Now, here's the lever. Teeter-totter. Everybody play on the teeter-totter as a kid? Here's the playground. I'm nailed to the playground. If I want the kid to go up, I pull the other end down. That's how a teeter-totter works, right? I don't resist. If I push in the center, that's a class 3 lever, and I got to be bigger than him to push the kid up. If I pull, he goes down, right? And depending on how fast you do that in your body motion you do with that, you may do a cartwheel like one of the 2 videos here, or he may just pile down straight on the ground. All right, so just first what I want everybody to do, we're going to spend a few minutes just making sure we get the lever correct. We're going to come in, and we talked about a Ateme earlier, right? Right? So if I want to distract him and get his balance off, as I come in, I just do that motion. Set my elbow, come up, switch my hands, right? right? Now I'm in a good push-up position. Pull back, he's down. Various things we can do from there, particularly if we went to Jeff's class last. All right, let's pair up and try that. Watch where your heads are going. Double grab, double grab. So big giant forearms. If I don't use leverage, am I gonna win this?
No.
No, all right? So when you're thinking about positioning your lever, if I put my lever on his forearm, am I gonna win that fight? No. That little spot here is where I wanna put it. I'm putting my lever where his arm is the smallest, instead of trying to fight those big muscles. I'm putting it down there. I'm putting it in that position, and then I'm right into that position where I can do the technique, right? And you can think, I'm sure some of you have probably already thought of some other fun things you can do from there. But he's pretty tied up. He can't really punch me at that point. Once you get into this, I want you guys to think a little bit. I talked about the lever, but we're gonna play a little bit. I want you to think about your teeter-totter on the playground being broken. So instead of a nice hinge at the top, think of it as a point, so it's gonna wobble as you do it. So just kind of go a little bit tight. I'm not gonna crank hard. But if I'm in this position and I'm kind of pulling, he's off balance, yeah, but he can still kind of resist a little bit if he's very strong, right? That's my standard teeter-totter. If I let the teeter-totter wobble, I just did a little loop with it instead of straight linear, then was it different?
Yes.
Yeah. So play with that. So get, and you can even if I screw up and I lost his arm, let's just say I lost his arm and I'm just in a regular arm bar. If it's a strong guy and I'm trying to do that, but if I wiggle it, if I do just a little ellipse, he goes down. And Taika always did three-dimensional motion when he was doing his stuff. All right? Continue. Thank you, sir. I'm just going to go ahead and get him here because we're kind of pressed for time. Once you get up into this position, you don't have to have this held here. If my forearm's under him and my elbow's in here, he's kind of trapped, all right? So I don't have to have that. If I screwed up and let his hand go, I still got a good technique, right? But if he's here, if I'm in this position, if I'm here, it's still a good arm bar. And I'm able to do things. But I just wanted to add one other thing. Nahanchi Shodan was Taika's favorite kata to play with. And so when you get in this arm bar position, where that little notch is, I want you to go ahead and the next couple of minutes get in there and play with this. But I want you to spill your coffee, all right? So if I spill my coffee on him, he goes this way. If I spill the coffee on me, he goes that way, right? And that's classic Nahanchi Shodan kind of move. That kind of move. So I want you to add that to it. Just want to thank everybody for playing with us and helping us remember Taika Seiyu Oyata. Sorry.